This is when the world needs our eyes and our ears and our minds. You are the generation that is going to have to help us make sense of this and recover afterwards. Are you keeping records of the emails and texts you're getting, the thoughts you're having, the way your hearts and minds are reacting to this strange new way of living? How open can you keep your heart? So this too is a part of life on Earth. That is a quote from a podcast interview with the writer George Saunders. And that is from an email that he wrote to his students where he teaches. I found it really profound to ask, how open can you keep your heart? And what does keeping your heart open look like, even? And also this idea of, so this too is a part of life on Earth. We're all discovering collectively right now, this is a part of life. It also touches back on the video from last week about keeping records. It is a time to examine what's happening day to day, just like Anne was doing. She was examining herself, her emotions, her reactions, her thoughts, everything that was running through her head, or just the food she happened to eat that day. I don't know that Anne ever imagined that so many of us would be using her words to help us process this unprecedented and strange time we're living in. And so I think it's really fascinating and cool, and hopefully not too much pressure, to think about how examining our minds and our thoughts and our hearts right now and keeping records of everything that's going on, how that may in the future, 50 to 100 years from now, be a roadmap for somebody else going through something that before that was unimaginable. It brings me to what I wanted to focus on more today, is this idea of responsibility and social responsibility. And I think Anne felt a responsibility to examine herself in order to better herself, to examine what she had done and what she could do better. Especially for those who have the time right now, those of us who aren't on the front lines and we are staying inside, is we have the privilege of time, which also can feel like a burden. I want to acknowledge that. It has been particularly hard for me to write. For those of us that have the time, there is some sense of responsibility I'm feeling to try to examine everything that I'm going through. I think something that Anne was trying to do was to bring her behavior to light and to ask herself how she could be better, or what she was already doing that was really working. Speaking of social responsibility, I think that's something like using our masks. Using a mask has just become my new normal. When I grab my keys to leave the house, I grab my mask as well. And that's not just for my protection, but it's also for the protection of everyone else I come into contact with, especially those that might be more susceptible than I am, that are immune compromised. It is much bigger than just myself. I think Anne definitely felt a sense of that as well. We have many reasons to hope for great happiness, but we have to earn it. And that's something you can't achieve by taking the easy way out. Earning happiness means doing good and working, not speculating and being lazy. Laziness may look inviting, but only work gives you true satisfaction. Now, I think work in this context isn't about productivity, but I think it's about doing good, about examining yourself and asking, how can I do good right now? How can I help take care of other people? I think pre-pandemic, social responsibility looked more like civic duty, community organizing, going to a town hall. Now we have to find smaller, quieter ways that we can have an impact from our home. Those that are able to make masks for other people right now. I see a lot of that happening. Or if you're financially able, what businesses can you give to? Organizations that need your help right now. Immigrant communities that don't have access to state benefits and unemployment benefits the way that I do. I think that's what the work and not being lazy really meant for her. And this idea that gives you true satisfaction. When we have the time to really sit down and examine and record our thoughts and feelings, it also causes you to think outside of yourself and to notice things that are happening around you. And talked about resistance organizations and helpers, especially the people that were helping them in the annex. The few people like Meep and Mr. Kugler and a few others that knew of their whereabouts, that would bring them food, that would bring Anne a magazine to read, things like that, that kept their spirits high and kept them fed. She says it's amazing how much the generous and unselfish people do, risking their own lives to help and save others. The best example of this is our own helpers, who have managed to pull us through so far and will hopefully bring us safely to shore, because otherwise they'll find themselves sharing the same fate of those they're trying to protect. That's something we should never forget. While others display their heroism in battle or against the Germans, our helpers prove theirs every day by their good spirits and affection. To me, that just directly links to all of the workers and helpers that are on the front lines right now. Of course, the big obvious one is our healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, administrators, grocery store employees, all the employees that are in shipping centers, packing up packages to be mailed, postal service workers at the post office, and those who are delivering mail, any mail carrier employee currently that brings packages to our steps. These people are keeping us safe and also keeping our spirits high by delivering packages, inadvertently bringing joy, risking their own health. Like Anne says, that's something we should never forget. When all of this is past, we've moved on, I think it's easy to forget details. We can bring light to those details by recording them, right? It's important to not forget all of our helpers that are working and doing good.